Hello, my name is Chantel Virgil with the Federal Communications Commission Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. Welcome to the first of many discussions where you will learn about telecommunication issues and FCC initiatives from senior officials. Our goal is to empower consumers with the tools needed to make well-informed decisions about their telecommunication needs. As it is also National Consumer Protection Week, it is a wonderful time to kick off these discussions. Today, we have Patrick Weber, Acting Bureau Chief of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's great having you. My first question would be, what would you say is the FCC's top consumer protection priority?
Our top consumer protection priority, and actually our top consumer complaint at the FCC, is illegal robocalls. This is either robocalls that are spoofed numbers or just calls looking to scam consumers. We receive approximately 200,000 consumer complaints every year about illegal robocalls.
Wow. Why have robocalls been such a big problem with consumers?
So advances in technology, and especially recent advances in technology, have made it very cheap and very easy for scammers to conduct these illegal robocalls. That's why consumers are seeing an increase in numbers. Unfortunately, these same advances in technology are making it very difficult for us to deal with this problem.
Okay. And what is spoofing? Because we hear a lot about spoofing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Illegal robocallers are looking to get consumers to pick up the phone so they can conduct these scams. They spoof a number, which means they make the number appear to be coming from someone other than them. They often use this a trusted source, like a consumer may have a bank account, so they'll make it look like it's from their credit card company or their bank or their utility company. These robocallers can also spoof a number so it looks similar to the consumer's number. They're trying to do this to try to get that consumer to pick up the phone. So if you look at your phone quickly and you see a number on your caller ID that's the same area code as yours and the same first 3 digits of your number, you're more likely maybe to pick that number up, and that's what these illegal robocallers are looking for. They're looking for more people to pick up the phone, answer the phone, so they can try to scam them. Okay.
And is spoofing illegal?
Spoofing in general is not illegal. There are some really good uses for spoofing. One example that I like to use is schools. They need to contact the parents of students if there's going to be a late delay in classes or a delay in activities, after school activities. So they need to contact parents, and they need to contact them quickly. They will hire a legal company, a robocaller, who actually conducts these calls in a legal fashion. These calls, if the robocaller uses their own phone number, the parent may not be likely to pick up the call because they don't recognize that number. So they're allowed to spoof the phone number of the school, so the parent will see that number, know that it's from the school, and they'll pick up the call, and they'll get that information that they want. Now there are illegal spoofing. That is when a company is trying to illegally gain something of value from that consumer. Those types of spoofings are illegal.
What are some of the actions that FCC has taken to combat against robocalls, illegal robocalls?
We are actually cracking down on illegal robocalls in 3 very strong ways. First of all, we're empowering phone companies to block calls before they even reach consumers. And we're going through a series of rulemakings in order to do this. We've actually allowed them just recently to start blocking calls from invalid numbers, and those are numbers that can't possibly exist. So if it's a number from an area code that doesn't exist, or if it's all ones or all twos, that's obviously an invalid number, it's a spoof number, and they can block those calls so consumers will not be getting calls from those numbers. We're also working with the industry to ensure the reliability of caller ID. So we're working on a proceeding where caller ID will be authenticated from the beginning of the call, from when the call is placed to when the call is received. If we can validate that caller ID as accurate, that will reduce the number of spoofed calls. And third, we're taking strong enforcement actions against illegal robocallers. Last year alone, we proposed over $200 million in fines against illegal robocallers. And we've also recently proposed a $120 million fine against one individual robocaller who made over 96 million illegal calls.
Wow. Well, it's good to know some of the actions that the FCC has taken, but what can consumers do?
We encourage consumers to not answer calls from unknown numbers. So if the number on their caller ID is not one that they recognize, let it go to voicemail. A valid caller will leave them a voicemail and they can return that call. Second of all, if they do answer the phone, they should not give personal information to someone they don't know. If they can't validate their identity, don't give personal information out, especially if it's somebody who's asking you for money. So if someone calls and says they're from your phone company or says they're from your bank or your utility company and they're asking for money, it's best to, if you can't validate that call, to hang up the call, look up their number yourself, either using an old phone bill you have or an old credit card bill you have, or go online and look up the number and then call them back. And then that way you can ensure that, if they're asking for money, it's a legitimate call. It's not an illegal robocaller trying to scam you.
Right.
There are also certain techniques that your phone company may have to be able to deploy to reduce the number of illegal robocalls or just robocalls in general that you receive. So you should check with your phone company, and there are also third-party apps that you can download for your mobile devices. You should check into that as well. We're also encouraging consumers to sign up for the Do Not Call list, put their numbers on the FTC's Do Not Call registry. Consumers should know, though, it was set up for legitimate telemarketers, for them to check the list, and if they see a number on the list, they won't call that number. Oftentimes, these robocalls that consumers are receiving are from illegal scammers.
Right.
They're not going to check that Do Not Call list.
Right. They don't care about it. Right.
They don't. Yeah. They don't care about following the rules when it comes to Do Not Call lists. So because they're trying to scam money. So unfortunately, those illegal robocalls, won't be affected by your number being on the Do Not Call list. And finally, we encourage consumers to reach out to us, to file a complaint with us. They can go online or they can call us and file a complaint. We use that information to kind of track trends, and we also use that for our enforcement efforts.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about illegal robocalls, and it's very important. It's the hot topic now. But are there other concerns that consumers have filed complaints about?
Yeah, we've found that consumers, oftentimes, if they're looking at their phone bill, they may not they might not recognize a charge on their bill. And so we hear from consumers, this is a charge I'm not sure I made, or I don't know what this means. Sometimes the definition or the description of the charge might be a little general, too general for them. We encourage consumers to talk to their phone companies about that first and foremost. The phone company should be able to provide them with details about what that charge means.
Okay. Can you tell us what consumers should be aware of when reviewing their telephone bills?
Yes, actually there are a lot of consumer protections in place. We have what's called truth in billing rules. And this requires phone providers, phone carriers, to list certain things for consumers to help them understand their bills better. First and foremost, the phone companies should provide clear language descriptions of each item that's billed, the service that's billed. They should also identify the service provider associated with each charge. There may be an additional provider involved, and that provider should be clearly identified in the consumer's bill. The bill should also specify which charges could result in a disconnection if the consumer does not pay that charge, and which may not result in a disconnection if a consumer cannot pay that charge that month. And then finally, they should display on each bill the phone number, and it should be a toll-free number that the consumer can call the phone company in order to get more information and to speak with someone directly about any questions or concerns the consumer may have.
No. Okay. I know when we're traveling the country and we talk to a lot of consumers, many of them express concern over charges on their phone bill that they don't necessarily recall signing up for. So have you seen a lot of complaints about this?
Yes, we do unfortunately get complaints about this, and it is a practice. Illegally placing a charge on a consumer's phone bill is called cramming. And it's been around for several years, unfortunately. And as I was saying earlier, there could be a third party involved in the consumer's phone bill. It may not just be the phone company and the consumer. There could also be another provider of goods or services, and a consumer can sign up for those goods and services and then be billed through their phone company for those charges. Oftentimes these are legitimate charges that the consumer signed up for and authorized to be made on their phone bill. Also, there are times when an illegal scammer will use that ability to place an illegal charge on a consumer's bill. That's known as cramming. We do have rules against cramming, and we encourage consumers to first work with their phone company. If they see a charge that they didn't authorize, they can also call that third-party provider directly to dispute that charge if they think they didn't authorize that charge. And if they can't get any resolution through either their phone company or that third-party provider, they can call us. So they can file a complaint with us online, or they can call us directly, and we'll help them in that process.
Okay, so I know you mentioned complaints a lot and filing a complaint with the FCC. So before we close, can you remind consumers about where they can go for more information?
Yes, we actually have a lot of really helpful consumer guides and tips through our Consumer Help Center. That's located online, and it's at FCC. It's www.fcc.gov/consumers. That's kind of our portal for all of the publications that we do, and they're updated from time to time, the latest topical issues and things. So it's a very helpful site. We encourage consumers to go there first to get more information. If consumers want to file a complaint for the few things that we talked about, there's other complaints that consumers are allowed to file through us. That website for filing a complaint is www.consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. Just to let consumers know, once they file an informal complaint with us, they'll get an email response from us telling them we received your complaint, kind of going through the steps of the process. So we'll stay in contact with consumers that way through email. If consumers need to contact us by phone, we do have a toll-free number. It's 888-225-5322, and we also have a number for TTY users, and that number is 888-835-5322.
Okay, so that concludes our discussion. I want to thank the viewers for watching, and also to Patrick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And immediately after this interview, we will post on the screen some contact information for the FCC. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you soon.